Okay, let's move on to a more, I guess, interesting award and a more difficult award to gauge. Most improved player. Who's your third choice? Who's getting your third place vote for most improved player for this
Yeah,
season?
Miles Bridges. you know,
Great, great.
yeah, he's great. I know that I think the metrics are a little bit split on his like impact, right? Uh, he's not super efficient, and he's not that great on defense, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, like you don't love that 33% from deep necessarily, you know, but the guy, his points per game jumped from 12.7 to 20 points a game. He's a pretty vital cog in their offense. He's a really great target for LaMelo Ball in transition and like as a pick and pop slash roll threat in half court. And I think the Hornets probably found a cornerstone where they didn't necessarily expect one, you know, and that's exciting. Uh, yeah, he's my third choice.
So my third choice, I actually tweeted about this a little while ago. My third choice for most improved player is the biggest curveball involved this. Pascal Siakam.
That's no, there's a case there, man.
And
Yeah,
the reason I say this is he's already won the fucking award. And it's one of these awards where it's like, once you win it, it's not rookie of the year, but people are like, well, once you win most improved, you can't win most improved again. But Pascal Siakam, after he won most improved, really, really regressed. And then this season, he's come back with a vengeance and been really, really good after missing the first part of the season. I just think you got to give it to him in that, like, he won most improved as being like this really useful kind of tertiary option that, fed off the fact that Kawhi Leonard was getting a bunch of defensive attention. And then he kind of fell back to earth when he was the number one option after Kawhi left. And he's kind of spent 2 seasons figuring it out. And like this season, he kind of has figured out how to be the number one option and a really effective player. To me, he's that jump from being like, I can be good as a second or third option around a great player to being I can be the number one option on a good team is like the toughest jump to make. And he does a lot of crazy shit in terms of like being like a point center at times. Like he's awesome. And I think he's really fucking improved this year. And part of the reason he's going to win this award is because we put him on the Albuquerque Albatrosses at the beginning of the season.
you're
We thought
right.
his contract was one of the worst contracts in the league, and now it looks like a good one.
Yeah,
So shit, Pascal Siakam. The only reason
yeah.
you're not number one for most improved is because you already were most improved. But other than that, like he might have been in pole position to win this.
I'll tell you another thing, man. A lot of guys have made big improvements this year. Like the field is pretty stacked for most improved this season. I don't remember that it typically being this way when it comes to this award. Maybe I'll move on to my number two.
Yeah,
DeJounte Murray, man. This guy is a fucking stud. I love him.
he's
You
great.
know, sometimes in my wildest dreams, I hope that his pre-existing relationship with Kevin Porter Jr. and future Rocket Paulo Banchero brings him on over to the Rockets someday, man. He's a Seattle kid, you know. He's averaging he's
I like
averaging
how I like how your
nearly a
value.
triple double. Was that?
I like how your like value of Kevin Porter Jr. for the Rockets is like he could potentially be friends with players that could actually be good.
Yeah, well, that's about it, you know. And apparently he's a good catch and shoot player, but DeJounte Murray is looking like a future MVP candidate, man. That's it's not even an exaggeration. It's crazy. Like 21.2 points per game, 9.3 assists per game, 8.4 rebounds per game. He's getting 2 steals a night. He's got his 3-point shooting up to 33%, which isn't great, but it's always been a major weakness for him. And now it's more like a minor weakness for him, you know, and that's definitely saying something. And he remains one of the best defensive point guards in the whole league. Like big time jump. If somebody else hadn't made a bigger jump, he would be I thought all year he was going to be most improved, and now he's my runner up
So
because
I
I
actually
don't think he made the most improvement. That's the only reason.
I have him first.
Okay.
So I agree with you that he's been awesome. I think he's maybe been the most awesome in terms of improvement. But for everything you said, like the dude's a beast. If he wasn't on the Spurs, he would be the runaway favorite for this. Like hands down, I think just playing for the Spurs. I mean, you listed off his numbers. You know what that fucking sounds like? peak Gary Payton with more rebounds.
With more rebounds. Yeah,
Like, wait, what the?
especially that's right. When you consider that he is one of the best defensive guards in the league, he's like the new Gary Payton.
Yeah, like it's not complicated. He's great. I think he's on a really good deal. Came back from an ACL injury and has only continued to improve. I love him as a player. That's why he was number one for me. I think you nailed it. Like, dude's a point guard and he's at damn near averaging a triple double, and he's not fucking doing it Russell Westbrook style, where he's like, where the whole season is about getting him those numbers. They made the play in when they got rid of their like some of their better players. Like,
Yeah,
he's really good. He's leading this
really
team.
good.
And I think if Pop stays around for another 2 or 3 seasons, he's the reason why. Because he thinks we can win something with this guy.
Yep.
Great choice.
The playmaking leap is really impressive when you look at him. And he went from 5.4 assists per game to 9.3. His turnovers only jumped one from 1.7 to 2.7. And like 2.7 turnovers a night is extremely good when you're slinging 9 dimes, you know?
And also, scoring 21 points. It's like he's doing everything.
Yeah. So who's your number 2?
So my number 2 I had was Darius Garland, because Darius Garland went from being a good point guard to being like a legitimate offensive engine. He's not a great defensive player, but this is a dude that's a legit offensive engine where if he's running your offense, it's going to be good. When he's not on the court, the Cavaliers absolutely fall apart on that end of the court. And there's just, his development is the reason why they're in the playoff picture. I know the defense has been great. I know the triple big lineup is fucking hilarious. I know Evan Mobley's been good. I know K-Love has been a great bench piece. But if it wasn't for Darius Garland's improvement with the ability to like improve as a passer and shooter with more responsibility and basically no offensive support whatsoever in that starting unit, he leveled up, because if he was in a better environment, I think the stats would be even more insane, because he's also a really good off-ball player. And he went from being a really good off-ball player to being a really good on-ball and off-ball player. He's an absolute offensive weapon. I know I love defense, but like at a certain point, every team needs a guy that can make the offense work, and he's that dude. And maybe the defense will come along, because we've seen it with some of these guys where they figure that shit out a little bit later. They figure out how to be as good as they can with his obvious physical limitations on that end.
Yeah, and the other thing about Garland is that like they are particularly well designed to cover for his defensive deficiencies, right? It's like if you want a small guard that's an offensive engine but can't really defend, it's not a bad idea to pair him with 3 centers, like even though Lauri Markkanen's probably not that helpful on defense, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
But I do think that you missed the statistically most improved player of the year, like the one who made the single biggest statistical leap. You know who I'm talking about?
Let me take a look. So there could be a few. I think one of them could be Desmond Bane.
Nope.
Ja Morant.
Nope. Although that, yeah.
But I was considering him. This is my short list. Jarrett Allen.
Nope.
Okay, who made the biggest statistical leap?
Anthony Simons, man.
I thought about him. He just didn't play enough.
Yeah, he didn't play that much. That's true. But like this kid was someone who like last year I couldn't even tell you anything about him. Like I didn't like I knew the name. I was like I would have said, oh, I think that guy's on Portland, right? Like that's all I could have said about him. And now he's averaging 17 points per game, man. He's shooting 40% from deep on 8 attempts per game. Like to me, most improved is always weird because it's like, what leap do you want to reward? Do you like DeJounte Murray made the leap from fringe all-star to fringe superstar, whereas Anthony Simons made the leap from like fringe rotation player to fringe all-star. So it's hard to call like what you should value with this award. But for me, I just look at the most sheer statistical improvement. I think it's Simons.
I don't hate that. The only thing that I would push back with him is that it's more like his opportunities increase dramatically.
Definitely true.
And so I like to reward guys who the opportunities don't change. They just make more of them, or they're asked to do more when they're on the court. And I tend to like favor that a bit more than just like, it's like, yeah, no shit, you scored more points. You went from playing 7 minutes to 30 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
If you did it, there would be a serious problem.
Right. Well, you'd suck. So yeah, like basically, man, these awards are all fraught with subjectivity, right? Like at the end of the day,
Exactly.
there's just no way around it. Yeah, you're gonna have different measures, and that's what makes it interesting, I guess. So
All right. So we talked about one guy that a few guys I think I should just mention is, I said before, Desmond Bain, awesome, awesome development. He's another guy where it's kind of more like he just got more opportunities, but he's been really, really good. And if he's in someone's top three or wins it, I wouldn't push back on that. I think Jarrett Allen has really leveled up. Um, you know,
oh yeah,
before the injury, like all defense, he was an all-star, really, really good player, take the next level. His passing's improved. Like he's a real dude. I also think you should reward guys that go from being good to great. I think John Morant fits that category. He's really fucking improved on offense this season. I don't think he's going to get it just because he was already a household name. But if you put him in most improved, I'd be like 100%. Like he might even deserve it if you think about it. He went from like fringe all-star to superstar. Like that's
yeah,
a pretty big fucking jump.
yeah,
And Devin Booker, I think, is really improved. I think he's gotten a little bit better on offense, and his offense is already good. And I think he's gotten better on defense, where he's kind of an average defensive player. And for a guy, it's a kind of a combo guard. Being average on defense is rarer than you would expect and super valuable.
yep, yep. All good choices, man. Let's keep pushing.